In today's story, we explore what happens when a wife ends her marriage through a lawyer and her husband finally treats her exactly like the stranger she has chosen to be. As you listen, notice the moment where you think the relationship truly ends, because it is not always when the papers arrive. My wife said, "Talk to my attorney." I replied, "Understood, we are done." Then I cut off her cards, moved the money, let the lawyers handle everything, and I just watched as her divorce power play turned into a financial freefall she never expected. The text that ended my marriage came at 2:47 p.m. last Thursday. "Cole, I have retained Jessica Torres as my attorney. All further communication regarding our relationship must go through her office. Divorce papers will be served within 72 hours. No conversation. No attempt to work things out. No explanation of what I had done wrong. Just a legal wall from the woman I had been married to for 8 years. My reply was as short as hers. Understood. That was the moment I decided to treat her exactly the way she described our connection, as a legal matter, not a marriage. I am Cole, 38, a commercial airline pilot. I make around $180,000 a year. My wife, Marin, is 35. She teaches yoga and runs a lifestyle blog that brings in around $800 a month when things are going well. For our entire marriage, I covered about 95% of our expenses. Mortgage, utilities, her car payment, health insurance, credit cards, groceries, everything. She contributed what she could, but her passion projects never really paid the bills. I never resented being the main earner. I believed marriage was a team. I flew and paid the bills, she handled the house and worked around my travel schedule. I thought that balance meant partnership. Looking back, that was the first blind spot. It is easy to confuse financial support with emotional teamwork. Right after that text, I spent an hour on the phone with my attorney, Rita Barnes. She has done family law for 20 years and has seen every trick. "Cole," she said after I explained what happened, "this sounds like someone who wants the power of divorce without the risk. Has Marin talked about divorce before?" She had. Whenever we disagreed about money or chores, Marin would say things like, "Maybe we are not compatible," or "Maybe you would be happier without me." I had always brushed it off as frustration. Rita asked about our finances. I told her about the joint accounts, shared credit cards, automatic transfers that paid Marin's bills and lifestyle costs. She paused. "If she wants all communication through lawyers," Rita said, "she is treating you like an adversary, not a husband. You may want to protect your assets accordingly." Sometimes the first healthy boundary starts with accepting what the other person is already telling you. Friday morning, I followed Rita's advice. I called the credit card companies and removed Marin as an authorized user. I stopped every automatic transfer that covered her car payment, phone bill, and personal expenses. I moved our joint savings into an individual account in my name. I canceled the household cards she used for groceries, gas, and entertainment. Within 2 days, Marin went from having access to what was basically unlimited money to whatever was in her own checking account, which, based on her habits, was not much. I did not do this out of anger. I did it because when someone ends a relationship through a lawyer, the relationship benefits end with it. By Saturday evening, my phone was lighting up with calls from Jessica Torres, her attorney. I let them go to voicemail. Sunday morning, Rita called me, half amused. "Cole, you need to hear this," she said. "Jessica called in a panic. Apparently, your wife is having a financial emergency and needs you to restore her credit card access immediately." Financial emergency. That was their term for what happened when the gravy train stopped. "Jessica wants to know if you would consider maintaining financial support during the divorce proceedings," Rita continued. "For humanitarian reasons." Humanitarian reasons. As if I were a charity, not the husband she had just turned into a legal opponent. "Tell her," I said, "that Marin wanted all communication through lawyers. She's getting exactly what she asked for." 4 days after I changed the accounts, Marin still had not contacted me directly. That would break her own rule. but Jessica had called Rita 6 times trying to negotiate some kind of temporary support. According to Rita, Marin had assumed that demanding divorce through an attorney would be a power move. She thought it would put me into panic mode and make me more flexible. She never considered that I might quietly agree. Frank, my captain mentor at the airline, called after he heard I was going through a divorce. His advice was simple. When someone shows you who they are, he said, believe them the first time. Marin had shown me that to her, our marriage was leverage. A legal button to push when she wanted more power. So I handled it as exactly that, a legal matter. The papers arrived that week. I forwarded them to Rita and cleared time to review assets and settlement options. She wanted to end it through legal channels. Legal channels were what she would get. Jessica called Rita again the next day, this time sounding almost desperate. Rita, she said, I need to be honest with you. My client has no emergency fund, no available credit, and rent due in 2 days. She is asking if Qley would consider temporary support for humanitarian reasons. Rita asked, what legal basis does she have for expecting continued support during a separation she initiated? There was a long pause. Honestly, Jessica said, none. In this state, there is no obligation unless the court orders it, but my client assumed Qley would continue paying her expenses during the process. Assumed. That word told the whole story. According to Jessica, Marin was shocked that I had cut off financial access so quickly. She had expected weeks of emotional conversations, gradual changes, a soft landing. Instead, she got what she wrote in her own text, lawyer-only communication and the natural consequences of divorce. Frank came by my place that evening. When I told him what Jessica had said, he just shook his head. I have seen this with other guys, he said. Some wives throw around divorce threats to scare their husbands into compliance. They think the threat will make him change, but when he finally says okay, that card is gone. You cannot unplay it. At this point, any chance of reconciliation was fading. Even if we tried, how do you rebuild trust with someone who turned your marriage into a tactic? Rita called the next morning with another update. Jessica wants to meet about temporary support arrangements that benefit both parties, she said. Rita's recommendation was clear. Tell them Marin defined this as a legal matter. If she wants support, she can request it through proper legal channels and court documents. No more assumptions. Settlement leverage only works when the other side is afraid. When the other side is calm and ready for consequences, the leverage disappears. Madison, her sister, texted me later, can we just talk and work this out? I forwarded the message to Rita and reminded Madison that all communication needed to go through the attorneys. Marin had wanted me to be a stranger. Strangers do not get special emotional access. A few days later, Marin broke her own rule. I got home from a 3-day flight rotation and saw her sitting in her car outside my building. When she noticed me, she got out and walked over, tense and shaky. Qley, we need to talk, she said. I reminded her about the lawyer-only rule she had written. Forget the lawyers, she said. I made a mistake. We can work this out. The same legal structure she had used to push me away was now inconvenient. I cannot afford my apartment anymore, she said. I cannot afford anything. I did not think you would actually cut me off completely. She had expected a performance from me, begging, chasing, proving. Instead, she got boundaries. You demanded divorce, I said. Divorce means the relationship is over. When relationships are over, so are the benefits. That was when she admitted what this had really been about. I did not actually want divorce, she said. I wanted you to realize how much you needed me. I wanted you to fight for us, to make changes, to negotiate. My friends said threatening divorce would make you more attentive. She had turned legal proceedings into a relationship tool. I asked her what changes she had wanted. I wanted you to be home more, to prioritize our social life, to consult me before financial decisions. I felt like you treated me like a dependent instead of a partner, she said. She said this while knowing I paid 95% of the bills, and she brought in $800 to a $6,000 monthly household. "I thought if you believed I was serious about leaving," she said, "you would realize you needed to change." The irony was sharp. She had treated me like a bank with feelings attached, then acted shocked when the bank finally closed the account. Later, Madison called again and filled in the rest. "I tried to talk her out of this," Madison said, "but her friends kept telling her that successful men fear losing everything. They told her threatening divorce would make you more compliant. They see marriage as a power game." It was clear now. Marin and her friend group had turned our marriage into a test, not a conversation, not a plan. A test I did not know I was taking. 2 weeks later, Jessica called Rita again. "My client would like to withdraw the divorce petition and try marriage counseling," she said. Rita told her, "Qley will respond through proper legal channels after we review everything." No more emotional shortcuts. If Marin wanted to change course, she had to use the same formal path she had used to start this. By then, I already knew my answer. You cannot build safety with someone who has shown they are willing to drop legal bombs to get their way. 3 months later, the divorce was final. Rita did a careful job. I kept the house, my retirement accounts, and most assets I had earned before and during the marriage. Marin received limited alimony for 2 years, enough to help her adjust, but far from the lifestyle I had funded. The most satisfying part was not financial. It was the silence. My monthly expenses dropped by about 60%. Turns out that Marin's modest lifestyle had been costing almost $3,000 extra each month. Restaurant meals, spa days, boutique clothes, premium gyms, weekend trips, all of it had been stacked on my income. I sold the house and bought a smaller place closer to the airport. I upgraded my truck. I still had more money left over than I had seen in years. For the first time in a decade, my bank account reflected my choices, not someone else's expectations. Rita and I actually became friends through the process. "Qley," she said during one of our last meetings, "you were not a husband to Marin. You were a financial resource she happened to be married to." It hurt to hear. It also felt true. About 4 months after the divorce, I started dating again. I met Alina at a regional aviation conference. She is also a pilot. The difference was obvious from the first few weeks. When we go out, she pays for her own meals or we split the check. When she wants something for her place, she buys it. When we plan trips, she covers her share and helps coordinate. With her, life feels like collaboration, not sponsorship. Madison still gives me occasional updates on Marin, even though I do not ask. The retail job Marin took turned into a management role. She is living with a roommate now, driving an older car and learning how to budget for the first time in her adult life. This whole experience taught her that threatening to leave does not always make someone chase you, Madison said. Sometimes it just shows them how much easier their life is without you. Her old friend group, the ones who told her to weaponize divorce, have mostly drifted away. It seems that friends who enjoy spending someone else's money are not as interested when the money dries up. What I feel now, more than anything, is the absence of pressure. No more wondering how high the credit card bill will be. No more feeling guilty for wanting to save. No more living under the threat of legal drama every time we disagree. Alina and I are planning a trip to Europe next summer. We are each saving our own money, working around our schedules, building something together rather than one of us carrying the full weight. That is what partnership looks like to me now. 2 people, both contributing, both respecting the risk and effort the other brings. Frank came by last week with news that another pilot friend had gone through something similar. Stories travel fast in our line of work. "Your story is becoming a warning," Frank said. A reminder that legal threats and financial manipulation have consequences. I never set out to be a cautionary tale, but if my experience helps someone else recognize financial abuse dressed up as marriage, then some good came out of it. Marin taught me that when someone treats you like a stranger, you should believe them and respond in kind. Alina is teaching me what it feels like when someone treats you like a true partner. The difference is life-changing. Here are the lessons I have taken from all of this. Lesson 1. When someone chooses lawyers before conversation, believe them. They are telling you how they see the relationship. Lesson 2. Financial support in a relationship is a privilege built on mutual respect, not a right that can be demanded through threats. Lesson 3. Divorce, or the threat of it, is not a communication tool. Once you play that card, you cannot pretend it did not happen. Lesson 4. Boundaries are not punishment. They are simply the line between what you will and will not carry for someone who does not value you. Lesson 5. A real partner brings something to the table, whether it is money, effort, or shared responsibility, instead of just consuming what you build. Lesson 6. The people who tell you to use nuclear options in relationships rarely stay to help you clean up the fallout. What about you? If your spouse sent you a text demanding all communication go through lawyers, how would you respond? And have you ever seen someone use legal or financial threats to control a relationship? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments.